What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Max Marquee Matchup Divisional Round. Look, today we're talking about my team, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. They are headed to Arrowhead Stadium. I'm excited to get into this game. And look, obviously I've got the Chiefs covered, but I wanted to bring, a good friend of mine back, somebody that was on the program earlier in the season. We had an interesting matchup, a marquee matchup, certainly, which is why we ended up previewing it. I will not mention it and not mention the context around it for my friend's own feelings. However, you know him very well if you tune into this channel on a consistent basis. It's our guy, Sosa of Sosa Picks and Daily Bread Network. How are you doing, my friend?
That was a great intro, man. Intro. I appreciate you for real, for real. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for friends like you. Not mentioning the last time we actually had a conversation in this matchup. And also, I'm not homeless. My barber's just on vacation. So, I can't
set a playoff beard. That's all it is.
I can't set up the playoffs. Playoffs. That dream ended right around Halloween, brother. Like right around Halloween, it was like, time to start looking at new blinds. Shit that you like never cared about for like the last 6 months. It's like,
yeah, time to check some things off the to-do list.
I really need a pressure washer. Like I need a new, Like maybe I should check on like Amazon to see, just to see,
Yeah, get some Christmas deals, things of that nature.
It's been a rough year, man. And obviously, if we're gonna lead with that, yes, I'm a Niner fan. Where do I think we go from here? The fucking Super Bowl. The last 2 times we were this bad, we went to the Super Bowl next year. Don't ask me no questions about them. I have no answers. Super Bowl. See you next year.
There you go.
Nothing to really talk about.
Hey, look, that's the Sosa well. Obviously, Sosa is known for his expert picks as far as being able to make people money. Today, he is representing the side of the Houston Texans, as he is somebody that has, in the past, had some question marks about C.J. Stroud. However, has had those doubts turn into belief as he is rolling into this divisional round matchup with the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, coming off of a dominant win at home versus the Los Angeles Chargers. So, look, I like to start out talking about specifically the quarterback aspect of it because we are now into the playoffs, and this is about the quarterback legacy and what each one of these wins in each round says or does not say about a certain person. So, as somebody that's had this journey with C.J. Stroud and has written him on the blackboard behind you as well, how do you truthfully feel about C.J. Stroud coming off of this entire 2-year journey? Obviously, we saw him last year in divisional round, win the wild card round versus the Browns, go to the Baltimore Ravens and fall from that standpoint, win versus the Chargers in the wild card round, coming off of what was a shaky sophomore season, but good enough to get his team to this point. Where's your confidence level of C.J. Stroud walking into Arrowhead in this matchup?
First and foremost, I think that we have to be like understanding of all circumstances, right? Mm-hmm. And I say that on both sides. Patrick Mahomes this season, I'll address this first before I speak on what you were asking me, right? Mm-hmm. Throughout an NFL season, every quarterback is going to run into adversity in situations that are not necessarily perfect, whether it be your number one receiver being out, your number one running back being out, something that both these quarterbacks experienced for an extended period of time throughout the season. Right? One guy ended up with 15 wins. One could say that his defense had better cohesion. One could say that one team's best defensive player outside of the secondary and the D-line got suspended 3 games because the NFL is fucking soft. But that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. But these things did happen for both sides. So I keep it fair, right?
Yeah.
CJ lost Diggs. If any other quarterback lost Diggs, it'd be the end of the season. CJ lost him. People said, shut up, nigga. On to the next. I'm not trying to hear shit, right? That's what they did. They're like, shut the fuck up, man. We don't care. Nico misses some games. No one cares. Mm-hmm. Defense has injuries on throughout it. No one cares. They win their division. The season was over for the rest of the division, week 15, 16. So it was pretty much wrapped up. But we're not impressed because they didn't win enough games. Well, ultimately, they weren't going to be a 1 or 2 seed. So when it's the end of the season, you're simply trying to get healthy and in the right state of mind, physically and mentally, to prepare for some sort of run. I think that the Houston Texans have kind of executed that a lot better than we have seen, than the optics kind of show. right? Their record doesn't really show that to me. Now, as far as CJ Stroud entering Arrowhead, I think that it's irresponsible to ever mention regular season games but at times that's the only gauge of substance that we actually have to use in the grand scheme of how you analyze things, right? Like I can't talk about things I haven't seen. I can talk about Patrick Mahomes being absolutely amazing in this particular round of the playoffs. I could also talk about CJ Stroud winning a playoff game last year, having the experience of doing that and putting it together again last year. Now, to some people, the average fan, winning a playoff game is enough. And to me, I don't think it is, because I think you did it last year. You're in a situation. This is not a foreign situation to you. Mm-hmm. You've been in this situation. You've gone on the road. You faced a top tier defense, top tier quarterback. This is not something new to you. So it's not going to be. There's no shock value or factor. This is all that. Oh, he's going to go in the Arrowhead. It's going to be loud and cold. Well, it's fucking loud and cold in Baltimore last year, and they still lost. I get it. It's the same thing, right? And you don't have to be great the entire game. You just have to be great at the end. You have to win it. That's it. I think that CJ exemplifies a lot of the qualities that I like in a leader. I think his teammates play for him. I think that the last time when we saw him match up with you guys, Tank Dell got hurt, and the emotional shift was immediate. Mm-hmm. It was like, we don't want to be here anymore. And that's understandable completely. It was a 5-point game inside 6 minutes. Obviously the personnel might be a little bit different for Kansas City entering this one based on the availability of players and basically their continuity off of injury. That's something that obviously has to be factored in. All in all, I think that something that people have not spoken of is that second-year quarterbacks or second-year starters have played a huge part in who participates in the Super Bowl over the last decade. It's a trend that people don't really speak on. I mean, Patrick Mahomes' second year as a starter, he was in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Well, right? It was like straight to it, right? Mm-hmm. Joe Burrow's second year as a starter in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts' second year as a starter in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy's second year as a starter in the Super Bowl. So it's a trend that ideally we can enter into the weekend saying, hey, it sounds plausible, mm-hmm. right? But no one thought that Michael Jordan would ever lose. That's probably a bad example because he didn't. But I'm gonna just end it there. I'm gonna just because it was going well, and then I was
put a little extra sauce on,
and then it was like that was. Let me shut up now. But I guess hopefully that that gives you some framework of understanding as to why I do believe in CJ Stroud. And then also I before I cut off the defense. Mm-hmm. I've always been high on Will Anderson. Fuck you, Jude. I've always been a Derek Stingley guy. Everybody's always telling me about Sauce Gardner. Like, can we finally shut the fuck up about that guy? Like, not that he had a bad year either. That makes me sound like a hater because Sauce didn't have a bad year. And for all you dumbasses on the timeline, it's cool to troll, but Sauce did not have a bad year. Mm-hmm. It's just a down year based on the standard set. You're a 2-time All-Pro to start your career. It only goes downhill from there, brother. You can't.
And cornerback is a volatile position too.
Yeah,
what happens?
You can't. It doesn't get better than that, right? You back-to-back seasons to start your career. Don't worry, you got about 10 more years to add to that. You'll be just fine. But Stingley has shown to be a complete playmaker. And I think D'Amico can devise a plan. It's can they execute it? I've done all the research when he was the DC in San Fran. Y'all beat the shit out of us.
Yeah, 45-point game.
He also blitzed the shit out of you for no fucking reason.
No reason. Yep.
For no reason whatsoever, he just decided to blitz, which is something he never did. And he just that day, it was like, I'll just blitz Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the NFL against the blitz. Hopefully he doesn't have a fucking brain fart and that happens again. But it's just simple. Defense got to make plays, and you got to make this a game where it's a thinking situation down the stretch and give your kicker or whomever an opportunity to win it at the end. I think Houston has all the pieces that are required to do that. I'm not worried about their lack of depth at receiver. I think that CJ is good enough to make enough plays in the game to give them an opportunity to ultimately win the game. 8.5 points is egregious. It's extremely disrespectful. Extremely disrespectful.
We will talk a little bit about the line from that perspective, but I think I like the way that you presented it as far as CJ Stroud and positioning him as the person that makes those plays at the end of the game. And you talked a little bit about his leadership, the poise, the physical tools are things that you can see. His accuracy, his ability to throw to all three levels, those things were evident. And honestly, his athleticism is even better than really he's shown. He just, wants to be a pocket passer, but we saw versus the Chargers when asked to do so, he can't scramble effectively. The poise, the leadership, those aspects of it are really what I do think sets him apart, and really are the things that have always, made me a fan of his, whether he was at Ohio State and obviously coming into the Texans. So I completely agree with you. He has the ability to stay poised in those moments, be able to stay calm, and that's half the battle when you're going on the road and try and win a playoff game. To your point, he's done it in Baltimore as far as it had that experience, so it's not going to be a shock to the system, and the defense has the ability to keep it close because this is a top-notch unit, then he's going to be able to maybe be in position to make those plays ultimately at the end of the game, and that's what it's going to come down to from that perspective. Now, on the flip side, obviously, you mentioned the Michael Jordan in this game from that perspective. That would be Mr. Patrick Mahomes, of course. This begins the three-peat quest as far as the Kansas City Chiefs are concerned. Patrick Mahomes now sitting here on the cusp of trying to have his fourth ring in 6 years of a starting quarterback, which is absolutely mind-boggling to say honestly out loud. But we have not seen this team play a game since Christmas Day, and they destroyed the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right before then, obviously, they did play this Texans team. And to your point, that really, momentum-wise kind of turned as far as that Tank Dell injury, and it wasn't necessarily much of a game afterwards because of the way the Chiefs were able to control it. Felt like the Texans could really recover. But ultimately, as far as the narratives are concerned, this is a game for Patrick Mahomes that not only is he expected to win, he's expected to win it handily, according to that 8.5-point line from that perspective. Not an easy challenge going up against this defense, but that is why, the crown is heavy for those that do wear it. I do expect Patrick Mahomes to come out and show out like he does in every single divisional round game. I believe that the numbers are 15-0, 67% completion percentage. Obviously 6-0 in his career, as he's never had a season end before the AFC Championship game. So we will see what we get as far as these two quarterbacks are concerned. But I do think we're going to get some entertaining quarterback play because I do think these are two really good quarterbacks from that perspective. Anything before we do get to the specific matchup as far as that's concerned, Sosa?
But how many MVPs does he have?
Hey, only two. And look, active guy might be passing.
Sounds average to me, brother. Sounds average to me. It doesn't sound like anything special to me at all. It's totally average shit that you just belted off.
So I was talking earlier to a few Chiefs fans, and they were like, the Pro Football Reference for X quarterback. I think Philip Rivers had a chance to get into the thing. I was like, do y'all realize that on Pro Football Reference, their score, Matt Ryan is technically ahead of Patrick Mahomes as far as their score is concerned? And you want me to believe in that number?
Bro, it's like when you hear these conversations like all year, and they're like, he's not the best quarterback. And I'm like, yeah, but he is. Like, I hear you. Like, I don't give a fuck about the statistics. You know what I mean? It's that I think that's what it is. It's like, it's we as fans, fantasy people, gambling. Mm-hmm. That's what's warped our fucking brains into not knowing what we're actually seeing and acknowledging it and just simply embracing or enjoying it. I mean, it's harder for me to enjoy, obviously, as like a fucking fan of a team that you beat, but it's really some other shit, bro. Like, what do you feel lost? Won like 27 of like 29 games or some other shit like that. Something outrageous. I mean, yes. It's just
crazy.
Yeah,
to think about as far as the run is concerned. But yes, it's a good point. And we have a lot of great quarterbacks in this league, but ultimately it is about what happens in this month and obviously next month. And that's the reality of the situation. Chiefs not lost in either one of these months, and then over 300 something days now, 600 days. We'll see what ends up happening on this day coming up here. So getting into the matchup, though, specifically, Texans offense versus the Chiefs defense. You mentioned, obviously, the existence of Nico Collins, who early on in the year was out of the lineup. CJ Stroud had to buoy this offense. They obviously lost to Dell in the game versus us. They lost Stephon Diggs earlier in the year to a torn ACL. Mixon was in and out of the lineup, but recently has been playing better. He is expected to play in this game as well. offensive line has been shaky all year. They've had a lot of issues with Bobby Slowik's play calling and some of those play sequencing as well. I think the screens versus us specifically were not a good decision by him, and the frequency in which he used those specifically. So going into this game, though, against the Chargers defense that had some really good numbers, they were technically the first as far as scoring defense coming into that game. They had no problems picking them apart. A little bit of unevenness to start out, but they made plenty of plays to ultimately have a stranglehold on that game. And I was really impressed, I'll say specifically, with their ability to get after the Chargers on the ground. So coming into this game, how do you feel about CJ Stroud, this offense, and their ability really to attack what is a more physical style of Chiefs defense, in my opinion, than what they faced last week versus the Chargers?
Well, I mean, first and foremost is the freak boy alien play. He's good, right? Like, I know he was banged up end of the year, but I mean, I had like a month off to end the season,
he's
right?
good.
So it's like he's good. So
the other CJ in this game.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, bro, I'm not super fearful of your defense. I think that it's Spags, so it's kind of cut and dry as to what you're going to get. I mean, is he going to have levels of disguise at times? Of course, it's Spagnuolo. It's what he wants to do, right? He's going to show zero. He's going to blitz 7 people. He might, drop 7, and he might, and then on the play where he decides to just rush 3, Chris Jones just wrecked the fucking game, right? So the expectation for me is this: 1, you've been awful against tight ends all year. I think Dalton Schultz is going to have to show up. I think the running back in the backfield is going to have to show up. They're going to have to be able to sustain drives and make sure that they don't put themselves in extremely questionable situations like 3rd and long. Like you mentioned with Slowik, he did a very good job of not throwing the ball behind the fucking line of scrimmage, which is not smart against fast defenses. It's pretty idiotic. I think he did a great job. We can argue that last week was his best game as a play caller all year.
I completely agree. I would say no doubt about it.
I'm looking at him like, damn, like this is different.
Who's this guy?
I'm like, you guys, you understand that they're playing man. You got to have the quick game because they're bringing 5 on every fucking. Oh, look at this guy knowing what he's actually seeing, right? Because at first it looked like we were about to head down the same kind of path. Then on the 3rd drive, it's like slant. And I think part of the reason was that he had the game plan, but he almost deterred from it because remember on like the first play, the receiver fumbled. Mechie caught. Remember Mechie fumbled. Yeah, and so it kind of was like, man, like, do I want to keep doing this? Like, and then the next drive, he handed it off 3 times. It was like, nah, bro.
Can't do it. No, we did this all week. We game plan for it. We got to go with it.
Right. We know what we're supposed to do. So, and then they went out there and that's basically what you saw, right? Like you saw him, the quick game, get the ball out of CJ's hands. If he does have to diagnose CJ, you got to be a willing runner to make sure that you do move the chains and don't worry about the play before. On to the next one. So I think that's what you need. You need CJ to be able to be mobile to some extent and understand that and understand at times it's not a choice; it's a necessity. It's not a choice. You're not gonna get what you want, and getting tackled behind a line of scrimmage, the drive's over.
Yep,
the drive is over, and like I said, I think they have to exhibit discipline. I think they did a pretty good job of exhibiting discipline, not getting a bunch of crazy pre-snap penalties. That's been a problem in the past for that offensive line. The offensive line will have put them behind the sticks. I think that's probably my number one thing I'm looking to as far as a question mark with you guys. Chris Jones and Karlaftis and the other, well, obviously, Chris Jones being active and good. He's a force multiplier. He allows for the other guys to be even more effective because of what he draws to him. You know what I mean? So it's like, and you see it. You see his impact with him just simply in the lineup. It's he's just one of them guys. He's headed to Canton one day for a reason. So other than that, love McDuffie. I think that the whole coverage game with corners is kind of responsive or reactive based on what you get that day. So trying to prognosticate prior, who's going to get the targets. I don't think that's how it works. I think that throughout a game, especially playing against y'all, a matchup may present itself, but it might not be there to start the game. And I think that's where like I said, the thinking man's game where Slowick and CJ are going to have to be on the same page and be able to understand that. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's a tough task. 8.5 point spread. Again, that's a lot of points. 8.5 points is a lot of points. It's that's insane for a playoff game. I don't care where it's being played at, but ultimately, that's what's going to happen. CJ is going to have to find his tight end. He can't turn the ball over, and they're going to have to deal with CJ with Chris Jones. Like that. Those are the three things that I'm looking to. Like I said, the whole players in coverage thing and like matchup things in the back end, that's reactive. That sort of thing is very reactive in the fray of a game. So like trying to like dictate, oh, well, Nico Collins is all they got. Well, I mean, they got other guys who can match up with other guys based on zone or man. So one of them has a very good opportunity to go off just based on opportunity, just based on being able to get a man's share of the target share. So outside of Dalton Schultz, I don't have anybody else that I would really look at, because again, we've not been presented with enough data to or even plays from the other guys to say, hey, it's going to be Mechie, or hey, it's going to be another guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, along those lines, as far as Schultz is concerned, I'm on the same page with you, because ultimately that has been a weakness for our defense, being able to cover tight ends. And part of that is going to be along the lines of a former Texan in this game in Justin Reed. He has been weak in coverage as far as man-to-man on tight ends. That is a matchup occasionally that we have, given up according to Spag's game plan. But I like the way that you framed it, as far as it's hard to figure out what the outside matchups are going to look like, and that they're not going to stay static throughout the game, because that is what Spag's defense does to quarterbacks. He's going to change the picture. He's going to change the presentation. He's going to change where the blitzes are coming from, because they will come throughout the game. Ultimately, CJ Stroud is a worse quarterback versus the blitz than he is better, without the blitz from that perspective. But the massive thing for me is just how he can deal with those different pictures that Spagnuolo is going to present on a consistent basis. And to your point, CJ being back, I should say Chris Jones in this case being back, being able to rush the passer allows Charles Omenihu to be a secondary pass rusher, George Karlaftis to be a secondary pass rusher. There are going to be times in which we are going to either get a free runner or just get pressure on a consistent basis on CJ Stroud. That's where he has to be creative. He has to buy some time for guys to get open versus whether it's man or zone. And he has to also use his legs to get scrambles. They're not necessarily going to treat him like a Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen and try and fence him in. They're going to come after him to get him down on the ground like a Joe Burrow. He has the athleticism to make him pay for that. It's just about if he's going to be able to, according to how his mindset goes. Anything you wanted to add as far as the Texans offense?
I think we covered everything, brother. I don't want to listen. Yeah, and I'm so serious, bro. I'm so serious. Like he's the only one that fits the profile of like any of the quarterbacks that can really stop him. Like I know people are going to talk about like Lamar and Josh Allen, but based on like what we've seen the last 5 years in the Super Bowl, like CJ Stroud metrically is actually the closest that has the best chance to beat this guy. Mm-hmm. It sounds weird. It sounds crazy though, right? Like it like to think that it'd be like it sounds nuts.
And look, I mean, there is precedent for what has happened as far as Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen versus us before. There isn't as far as CJ Stroud. So we'll certainly see what he's able to bring to the table from that perspective too. So we can flip it, go on to the other side as far as the Chiefs offense versus the Texans defense. I'll say as far as, our end, and then I'll allow you to talk about what has been a really good Texans defense and certainly showed out versus Justin Herbert and Los Angeles Chargers last week. For me, we have the news that Joe Thuney is going to stay at left tackle. Joe Thuney played the entirety of the game at left tackle versus Houston Texans the first go around. I thought that his performance was fine, a little bit uneven, but fine. They gave him plenty of help as far as the quick passing game was concerned, and then also some alignment things to help him out from that perspective. A little bit of running back chip help as well did not hurt. Mike Caliendo was a little bit less than fine. My main concern going into this game is the fact that our run game hasn't been as good as it was when Joe Thuney was at his natural all-pro position as far as left guard is concerned. Ultimately, of course, this is, coming down to making sure Patrick Mahomes feels comfortable in the passing game. And so I trust Andy Reid to make the right decision from that perspective. What I want to see, though, is the usage of these weapons. We have full complements, obviously, of DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown. These are guys, specifically the latter, that we haven't necessarily seen a full allotment of snaps from. I want to see what the offense can do in using those guys. Travis Kelce now with a month off since his last game, well rested, hopefully to get back to the playoff version that we saw, certainly last year's playoff run from that perspective. Noah Gray played well, I think, in his stead, throughout the entirety of the season, stepped up for us. And I think our running back trio is really good. Another month off for Pacheco hopefully can help out that run game from an explosive perspective too. For me, the Texans defense is really good. Obviously, I think they have a really good front four. Aziz brings a nice, physicality and athleticism to their second level. That is real. We're going to have to account for that, particularly in the run game as well. If we can do what we normally do to DeMeco Ryans' defenses, and I don't mean that specific 45-point game, but that style of being able to keep their edges off balance because of the quick passing game, using the run action at them, make them unsure of what they're seeing, feel good about things. Of course, as an opportunistic back end, Mahomes has to avoid the mistakes, that he normally avoids this time of year. Given the wealth of weapons, I think there will be other opportunities to go after guys. It doesn't necessarily have to be one guy in particular. That's why I don't necessarily love any of the wide receiver props, as we'll get into the best bets later on, though. Chiefs offense, I like what we're doing. I'm a little bit concerned about the run game coming into this. We'll see how it looks, but ultimately I have trust in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes as far as this game is concerned. Sosa, talk to me about this elite Texans defense and their performance in showing Justin Herbert the door last week.
I never said they were elite. I never those words. I rarely use that word. Just like people use the word generational, like it's like small, medium, or large. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't even try to. I'm
sorry. I've been told that the Texans have the 85 Bears defense a lot this week.
Right. They don't know how to phrase it properly. I don't know what the fuck someone will be thinking. Listen, I'm a Will Anderson guy. I love Danielle Hunter. I love DeMeco Ryans. Over pursuit will determine this game for the Texans defense. And I mean that because if you're going to blitz, Andy Reid will be ready for it. and they'll smoke you. Right? That's how I'm looking at it. So and that's one thing he's been able to do against these defenses that are like in the molds of like Saleh and DeMeco Ryans, and just guys from that cloth or that pedigree, right? Where it's like they use your aggression against you. Like that's like the thing that if you watch the tape, that's what Andy Reid does. It'll be like a reverse or a fucking end around. Like, it's always something in regards to knowing what's on the other side and then using it against you. Cause it's like, man, they're going to bite down so hard on Patrick Mahomes doing a boot action that by the time he does that, you don't even know who the fuck has the ball. Mm-hmm. So that's my thing. Not letting over pursuit doom you in this game. I think that's my number one thing for them. I think that Andy Reid has done a very good job of manipulating those defenses, particularly cut from that particular cloth that I just mentioned. And I think that becomes the chess match. Can you get pressure with 4? And if you get pressure, can it be real pressure where you don't allow Patrick Mahomes to extend the play and beat the shit out of you? Right? Because you can get upfield too fast and it be over with. You can get to him and it still be over with. So that's what you look for. As far as, like I said, misdirection. And obviously with me, when it comes to like props or whatever, I think the number is kind of low. I think Travis Kelce has 720 receiving yards in the postseason just in this round alone, which is insane to even think. That's absolutely ridiculous. Just in this round, people don't really understand how difficult that is when you really think about it. Just 700 yards just for a career in the playoffs is fucking amazing.
Nuts.
Like 500 yards in the playoffs for your career is amazing. Yeah, it really, dead ass. Like it really is. Because you think about it, it's over a 3-game span. right?
No, I was gonna say like Travis Kelce's records, like it's like, oh well, he has X amount of yards, and that doesn't sound all that amazing. Well, it's him and Jerry Rice are the two people that are at this
Yeah,
milestone. So
it's
it's like,
ridiculous.
yeah,
It's
it's
like,
pretty kind of
what?
crazy. Do you think about
Yeah,
it?
it's like so that's my thing. When I like seen that, I'm like, damn, like he really is like in the books for real. You know, like we've been knew that, but like obviously that's where everybody say he's the head of the snake. I don't even think that's the case when you have these new like all the whole weapon group now. I don't even think that's the case because the level of versatility and just like trust. I think that's another thing that people miss with Andy Reid. Andy Reid got to trust you because if he doesn't, he'll just throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage 30 times. Like if he doesn't trust you, he'll tell you. Like he'll let it be known based on how he calls plays. It's pretty clear.
Go look at our playoff run last year.
Right. As I'm saying, like, if you catch the ball, get the fuck down. Like, he was instructing his players, like, do not even try to get yards after the catch. Go to the ground. So it's like little stuff like that where, you know, again, I think the personnel on Houston's side is good enough. It's just, again, it's about don't over pursue, stay disciplined, and, you know, make it a thinking man's game. Make it to where you make Patrick Mahomes have to be a runner and hit him. I know Kansas City fans aren't going to want to hear that, but listen,
it's that time of year.
You got to fuck him up. You got to hit him. You got to put a hat on him and drop him. And if he tries it again, do it again. All that, let him set up the slide and all. You know, you got to put a body on him. I'm being honest. Like that's accurate. You mean you have to bring the physicality.
I'm going to be saying it next week where we play Lamar Jackson with Josh Allen. So
right. That's the key, though. It's like you got to bring a level of physicality if you want to beat Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to beat him playing coverage all game. It's not going to happen. You got to fucking make him move. You got to hit him a couple times. It can't be, you know, like it can't be a situation where he just keeps getting chance after chance either. And also, get the fuck off the field on third down. If it's 3rd and 5, got to get off the field. Got to get off the field. So I guess that was kind of rantish, but I think I covered everything. I again, as far as like the playmakers, like if you want to bet on DeAndre Hopkins yards, go for it. If you want to bet on Hollywood Brown's yards, go for it. If you want to bet on who's the third one?
Xavier Worthy.
Him, if you want to, whatever, go for it. I can't talk you off any of them because I don't know who the fuck is going to get the ball. I really don't.
I don't
and yeah, I just simply don't. So I know people would love for like you. They want like recommendations. Like, bro, I don't know, roll some dice and then pick somebody. I don't.
It's a good guess as any. Look,
you know what I mean? It's like spinning the globe. Like,
go there. No, look, I truly agree with you. Last year in the playoffs, it was Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice. I could have told you that going into it. This year, because of the wide receivers, because of the tight ends, because of the running backs, I think there are going to be opportunities for all these guys. It just depends on what the Texans end up, you know, maybe presenting as far as that's concerned. And you trust Patrick Mahomes to be the point guard to distribute accordingly. You talked about specifically, I think it's that disciplined aggression. This team plays fast, it plays physical, and that's how you have to be to win this specific game and make it close enough for CJ to have a chance on the other side. But you have to be disciplined because if you over pursue, like you said, you get too far upfield, Mahomes is going to take that B gap all day long. If your guys are, you know, trying to press at the line of scrimmage and they whiff, Mahomes is going to make you pay for that immediately from the back end. They're going to send guys in motion. They're going to create 3x1 sets. They might create 4x1 sets, and you're going to have to play those with real discipline and then aggression, obviously rallying to the ball and tackling before the sticks on a consistent basis. And they're going to challenge you from a mental and physical standpoint throughout the entirety of the game to do so. Because if you bust it, they will take advantage of it. Pause. If you bust the coverage, they will take advantage of it if that does end up happening as well from that perspective. So it's a mental game as much as it is a physical game. But to your point, that discipline aggression is the thing that's going to keep the Texans defense in this game and make it close as far as going down the stretch as well. that was a bad one.
That was wild. That was wild. Hey, yo.
that was bad in hindsight. We're gonna go ahead on here and move on to the best bets. Of course, as Sosa said, and I alluded to, I'm not touching any of our wide receivers. I don't know who necessarily is going to get the ball, though. That being said, because of the decision to keep Joe Thuney at left tackle, I do think that there is going to be a little bit of a higher emphasis on the passing game than necessarily establishing the run. Not to say that we won't run the ball. We will run the ball. But still think that it's going to be more so in Mahomes' hands. Me personally, I've got Mahomes over 275 yards. I like the line on FanDuel. I think it's plus 145. It's variable. But I like that plus 275 yards. I think we're going to move the ball through the air. And that's ultimately how we're going to try and attack this Texans defense. Sosa, do you have a best bet for this game?
I got a couple, actually. I think what you said makes perfect sense. I like Patrick Mahomes over 24.5 passing attempts.
Also a good one.
I think it's 25. I think the number's too low. Unless CJ Stroud just lays the biggest ostrich egg of all time and just goes out there and just turns it over and makes me look like a fucking fool. I hope that's not the case. CJ's rushing yards as well, I think it's worth the bet. He's going to have to make some plays, and over 14.5 yards, I think that he's more than capable of doing that. On the defensive side of things, I'm taking Will Anderson Jr. to record a sack. And I know that Patrick Mahomes is slick as hell. I'm taking him for a sack. I'm taking Chris Jones for a sack as well. I honestly believe that another guy you could take for a sack is Charles Omenihu. A lot of people forget he was drafted by the Houston Texans. So there is a direct revenge angle as far as them letting him out of the building. So that's something that I've given some thought. As you can see, I've thought of every detail in regards to this game. And then I love Dalton Schultz over 38.5 yards. I like him for 40 plus, 50 plus. I like him. I like his number up to 70 yards. I think he is going to have opportunities. And also, if Spags is going to blitz, CJ is going to get a couple of big plays. He's going to get a couple of big pass plays. It's just,
it's a gash or be gashed way of living for sure.
And that's just what I foresee. I think that people make a big deal about the weather. I don't think that plays a big part at all. I think they go out there, strap it up and play football. And these motherfuckers is not from Miami.
No.
I know they play indoors because somebody's going to tell me, I know they play indoors. I don't give a fuck. And they ain't Miami. So I think and I'm taking Houston with the points. I may have put some money on them on the money line, but I'm not going to give that out to anybody publicly. You tail that at your own risk. You can't be scared. I mean, if you're scared, you'd be at church, but you're not going to church. You're going to watch football. You're probably going to happy hour brunch, and then so stop it. You know what I'm saying? Be real with yourselves.
Scared money don't make no money.
Yeah, you scared, go to church. You know what I'm saying? Don't watch football. Go to church.
I will say along those lines, my long shot bet was going to be at the Charles Omenihu revenge angle, but specifically because of how we like to use him moving along the defensive line to get those secondary matchups, playing off of Chris Jones as well. Other guy, if you want to take a long shot, Treshaun Ward. Interior pressure that Texans interior offensive line struggles. He's been a really good second interior pass rusher from that perspective, a guy that we relied upon occasionally too. Had a good year. Think he can get another sack as well in this game specifically. So as far as the game picks and the X factors, obviously you heard how Sosa felt about the money line from that perspective. Again, tail at your own risk. It's not giving out publicly, just saying. We are saying as far as the X factor is concerned, I'd love to say it's somebody other than this guy, but truthfully, if Joe Thuney has a good day at left tackle, I think we're going to put more points up than CJ Stroud can get to. That's just truly how I feel about it as far as the offense is concerned. So the fact that he's starting at left tackle, he's going to be my X factor point blank period. Choosing all-pro guard, feels maybe a little bit weird as an X factor, but because he's at left tackle, I think it's worthwhile from that perspective as well. And I think, there's other defensive guys, but we're so varied on defense. I'm not going to pick one specific guy. Everybody's got to show up as far as that's concerned. Sosa, do you have an X factor for your Texans to cover /
not my Texans. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. See, it's like the thing is that like people be doing that. No. They're not my Texans. An X factor in this game, Azeez Al-Shaair. I think he brings a level of physicality to the game. I think that he is a smart player too. He's not just a crash dummy. People try to make it seem like he's a crash dummy. He's not. He's a very, very, very intelligent football player.
Mm-hmm.
That's my X factor. I think that he's fresh. That's another thing too. He's fresh as fuck. He looked great last week. He got banged up early, came back in the game, was flying sideline to sideline. He's I'm gonna rock with him. I think that the first game of his suspension was against y'all. Look at the playoff.
No,
he didn't get to play. Y'all were the first game, right? Then he didn't get to play y'all, and then he missed. Right, and then he missed the next, and then he sat the last game because they didn't need him.
They didn't need him. Yep.
So I mean, he looked. He
was flying around out there. Absolutely.
That's my X factor. That's my guy. He stripped the ball from Kelsey or get a deflected interception from a D lineman. Something. You know, he's got to make a play. I believe in that guy. He's also an ex-49er. So fuck y'all.
Look, look. You need an upset on the road. You need those types of tipped interceptions, those type of strips to go your way. Balls to bounce your way, certainly, as far as this game is concerned. I do think that this is going to be an entertaining game. Again, I like to watch CJ Stroud play football. Obviously, I love to watch the Chiefs play football. I do expect my Chiefs to win. I do have a 31-20 personally. I know that, that we don't like to cover, but that's just how I think we'll be able to get the job done, which would be hilarious, us scoring 30 for the first time all year, of course, in our first playoff game, because that's just how, it tends to go. Don't think we're going to, we'll see. We'll see if we can get some of those explosive plays back from that aspect too. But all that being said, Sosa, I want to thank you for coming on. Talk to me about this Texans and Chiefs divisional round matchup. Certainly, we're going to have even more going into the championship round as well, as we plan that out for next week. But I appreciate you, Sosa, for coming on, man.
Hey, man, I'm glad I could be a part because most Texans fans are pussy, and I'm one of the few people who like, listen, man, you can't be scared in these situations, you've spoken before. I wasn't super high on CJ Stroud. But as I learned more about him, and I kind of just have followed him the last year and a half, really impressive kid, man. I'm cheering for him. I hope that I want him to be, I do believe he's one of those exceptional individuals. He's special. And I think that if we learned anything about football this season is that the stats and metrics sound good until it's moments that you are needed to be at your best and you're not. And I think that's the mitigating factor between CJ Stroud and a lot of quarterbacks. Mitigating factor between the quarterback you got too. So
we're going to find out. I think it might be a chance that we get some of those moments later on in the game. We'll certainly see who rises to that occasion, man. Looking forward to it.
Best of luck, my brother.
Absolutely appreciate it, man. That's all we have for Mac's Marquee matchup, man. Thank you guys for coming by. Check it out. We're going to have the other, previews as far as the Sunday games coming up as well. Looking forward to it. Everybody, peace out. Enjoy that weekend of football, man.